Hello and welcome to Focus on Israel and the Palestinian Territories. My name is Paul Calvert. Isaiah 56 verse 5 says this, "Even to them I will give in my house and within my walls a place and a name, better than that of sons and daughters. I will give them an everlasting name that shall not be cut off." I'm with Susanna Kokkanon from Christian Friends of Yad Vashem. Now, Susanna, what is Christian Friends of Yad Vashem?
So Yad Vashem was established in 1953, and in the 80s, 90s especially, there was an interest coming from the Christian world where people who are coming to Israel as tourists, they came to Yad Vashem and they didn't want to just to walk through the museum, not understanding so much about the context, but they wanted to actually to be able to ask questions or have a time of reflection after their tour. So in 2006, Yad Vashem established a department here, Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, and the mission was to connect Christians with what Yad Vashem is doing, which of course is Holocaust education. We are teaching about the Holocaust, also about the anti-Semitism that led to the Holocaust. And we are also trying to connect Christians with the legacy of the righteous among the nations. So we are also talking about people who during the Holocaust decided that they wanted to help someone. So it's a very big mission, but we can see how more and more Christians, when they come to Yad Vashem, they contact us and they want to have a special program.
And today we wanted to talk about the righteous amongst the nations. What is this project?
So from the very beginning, Yad Vashem, the name comes from Isaiah 56 and 5. "To them I will give in my house and within my walls a memorial and a name." So the word name, Shem, is very important. And of course, one of the main things that Yad Vashem has been doing over the years has been to collect the names of the people who perished. So we have 4.6 million names that we have collected. But the other names that you would see here on campus, you would walk around Yad Vashem and you couldn't help but notice are the names of non-Jews who tried to rescue someone at the time of the Holocaust. So you would see trees, you would see a name and a country, and you would understand that these people are very important, but you wouldn't necessarily know if nobody told you that we call them the righteous among the nations. So we actually have the Avenue of the Righteous right by the museum, and there we have all these trees. So in the Talmud, there's actually this concept about non-Jews who behaved fairly with Jews, and that is the concept, righteous among the nations, but the title, righteous among the nations, is only being given to people who acted during the Holocaust. So it does not, as an official title, refer to any other periods.
And how do you honor the righteous amongst the nations?
So the righteous among the nations are honored by either those ones who were recognized earlier have a tree here. So we have about 2,000 trees in the campus. But we also have a garden of the righteous, and in the garden you have walls, and by countries you have the names, and we are still adding more names of those people on the wall. They also actually become honorary citizens of the state of Israel. But I just need to remind everybody that as time passes by, we actually increasingly recognize them and they are no longer alive. So it's probably their family members who might come here to the ceremony, and sometimes actually it's the first time they hear about what happened in their own family during World War II.
That must be quite moving for a family or someone who's been honored to actually come to Yad Vashem and be honored in this way.
Yes, it's so moving that I have actually seen, we did a film about somebody, about their grandfather, and then afterwards this man who had no idea, who had heard like vague references to something but didn't really understand the magnitude of what had happened. I saw him in the Yad Vashem area many times, so I understood that he came here again and again afterwards because it was so important for him to learn the story. And I mean to say that it's moving, it's almost like underestimating the magnitude of their actions, and how does it feel for the family to find out, or if they didn't know why somebody was murdered during the Holocaust, a non-Jew, and then they suddenly find out what was behind it. It's huge.
And how do you find out about these people who are righteous amongst the nations?
So there's actually a committee, and that committee has a Supreme Court judge in it. It's a very long process because it's very important to evaluate. You can't have people receiving this title if you don't know for sure that what they did, first of all, that they risked their lives. That's one of the criteria. And if it's a case of a diplomat or an ambassador, they risk their careers, obviously. And then the other thing is that you need to have testimonies. You need to have some kind of witness, something. And then, of course, normally you would need to have some documents so you could establish that the person was in the place where they had to be during that time, and so on and so forth. So it's not an easy process at all. And normally the initiative comes from people who know about somebody who helped somebody, or from the family of the person who was rescued. That would be like the normal way, how it would come to Yad Vashem's attention, and then they would start the whole investigation.
It must be quite a long process, is it?
Yes, it is a long process. There's a whole department that deals just with the righteous among the nations and that process.
Which is the biggest country that has the righteous amongst the nations?
So that would be Poland, and obviously because in Poland you had the largest Jewish community in Europe, over 3 million Jews, and then that would be followed by Holland.
Did many of these people actually risk their lives to save Jews?
They would only be called righteous among the nations if they risk their life. So that is that, of course, in Eastern Europe, the punishment for hiding Jews was usually much harsher than in Western Europe. So you could be shot, not only you, but also your children, anybody who was living in your house if you were hiding Jews, for example. And if you were in Western Europe, we know, for example, from the story of Anna Frank, that the people who were helping, if there was knowledge of them, if it was established who were the people who were hiding or helping, they would share the fate of the Jews, so they would be taken to a camp.
You must hear some wonderful, amazing stories amongst the sadness of the Holocaust.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of survivors have said that this is the only light in that story, and that if there wasn't the story of the righteous among the nations, you would completely lose your belief in humanity. It would be so dark. So yes, and I think there are some stories that are better known for the more general public. So one of them that I want to mention is, of course, Oskar Schindler, because the film Schindler's List, when it came out, it had a huge impact on how people understood the Holocaust, how much they knew about it. And it started a kind of new time, new period, that people really wanted to learn more about the Holocaust. It's very interesting because the director could not have known what he was doing when he was doing it. And I think personally that the last part in the film, where you see the people here in Jerusalem actually going to Oskar Schindler's grave, that was very important because it established for the people the connection between the past and the present. That the people who were in the film, they actually are real people, and they are actually living, and they are breathing, and they can go to his grave because he did what he did. So a lot of people would come here and they would want to see his tree. And the other one that is very known, I think, to many is Corrie ten Boom. And Corrie ten Boom is very different. She was from the Netherlands, came from a very religious background. In her house, there had been prayer for the peace of Jerusalem for 100 years before the Holocaust. And then even for such a religious family, mainly the father and the 2 adult sisters, Corrie and Betsy, to join the resistance, to become active in the resistance, I mean, that's not something that, it's an easy thing to happen or like a natural thing to happen. And it's an amazing story because the father obviously died after 10 days in Gestapo prison. And then the sisters were taken to Ravensbrück and Betsy died there. And there were other family members that perished as well. So it's a very, very moving story. But what makes it so special and why I think it stands out among the stories is that Corrie, after the war, devoted her life to traveling and speaking about her experiences. And she felt that she could go to prisons, that she could go to people who were the lowest in the society because she had been there. So, yeah.
It's very important to remember those people who went through the Holocaust. Is it just as important to remember the righteous of the nation as well?
Well, I mean, when we say that we remember the Holocaust, I think it depends what we mean by that, because I think we need to remember every aspect. So you can't talk about the righteous on their own without telling the story of the Holocaust, meaning that most of the people were not righteous, most of the people were silent bystanders. So it would be wrong to separate one aspect from the other aspects, because then you don't understand how small this group was in the vast sea of peoples who were doing nothing. So I think, it's good to remember everything. And I think even in the story of Corrie ten Boom or Oskar Schindler, you really see, you don't just see what they did, you actually see the price that was paid by so many people.
Do you think that there are other stories out there today who haven't been told?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's why we have a sculpture in the Avenue of the Righteous, which is called The Unknown Righteous, because we know that many, even at the end of the war, were murdered by their neighbors because of what they had done to help Jews during the war.
Are you continuing today to look for new stories, asking people out there, do you have stories?
We are recognizing more righteous all the time.
What's your prayer for this project?
Well, I mean, I think it would be important that more people would know those stories. Like, it's good that we have them here and we have the names recorded, but I think we need, especially in the Christian world, we need people to actually to know the stories. And that's much different from, even if people have heard one name or two names, doesn't mean that they are really able to have the context. So I think it's important that people come here and they really listen to our guides and they really get the full story.
And for people who can't actually come here, you can actually go to the website and there are stories on the website. What's your website address?
Yeah, so we have www.Yad Vashem, it's spelled YADVASHEM.org, and you actually see there it says Righteous Among the Nations. So you just click there and you have featured stories. You can search by country, by name, by type of rescue, lots of different options. You can even look at the different countries and compare the numbers of the righteous. So I really recommend for people to do that.
Okay, Susanna, thank you very much.
Thank you.
If you'd like to know more about our show, you can join us on Facebook. Just look for Focus on Israel-Radio. Ezekiel 37 verse 4-6 says this, Again he said to me, Prophesy to these bones, and say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of the Lord. Thus says the Lord God of these bones, Surely I will cause breath to enter into you, and you shall live. I will put sinners on you, and bring flesh upon you, cover you with skin, and put breath in you, and you shall live. Then you shall know that I am the Lord, and the Jews will receive the real shalom peace.